Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. I'm Michael Finkel, your worship associate for this morning. We welcome all of you, no matter who, where, or when you join us, including Facebook or YouTube later in the week. We are grateful to have all of you. Whether you are bringing happiness or hurt, satisfaction or skepticism, your presence enriches us. Our many backgrounds, experiences, and interests create strength and inspiration. We hope you find comfort, connection, and challenge here. Our mission is to be a welcoming congregation, freely seeking spiritual and intellectual growth. We strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. If you are new or have attended just a few times, please raise your hand so we can see you and welcome you. Yay! And we hope you will connect with us after the service at the table marked Welcome, and also stay outside and meet people during our coffee and refreshment time. Now, our service today is being led by the Reverend Sharon Harris Ewing, who most recently served as assistant minister at the Naples United Church of Christ before retiring in 2021. Prior to that, Sharon served for 15 years as a professor of education at Roberts Wesleyan College in Rochester, New York. She is active locally with Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. We are grateful to welcome Reverend Harris Ewing to our pulpit. Now let's take a deep breath and settle into the worship as we listen to this morning's prelude.
Thank you for that beautiful opening to our worship. Good morning. It is a pleasure to share this service with you. I feel like I am among friends because I see many familiar faces. I've attended many events in this sanctuary, and many of the community groups of which I am a member meet here. But of course, there are many of you whom I have yet to meet. I want to thank your minister, Reverend Tony Fisher, for this opportunity. I consider it a sacred privilege to offer reflections that I hope will stimulate all our minds and enlarge all our hearts. Unitarian Universalist writer Tracy Bleakney has created this chalice lighting for a service on the separation of church and state. This chalice burns with twin flames. The first flame burns for those who seek and defend the right to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, so that each person may live according to conscience in a democratically elected society. The second flame burns for the defenders of freedom, working against those who would impose their own religious beliefs on others through intimidation or legislation. Would you join me in the chalice lighting response on the screen or on your order of worship? May we tend this fire always, ever vigilant and courageous in the struggle for freedom and justice for all. And now, please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing our opening hymn 148 in the gray hymnal, Let Freedom Span Both East and West.
Let freedom span both east and west, and love both south and north, in universal fellowship throughout the whole wide earth. In beauty, wonder everywhere, let us communion find. Compassion be the golden cord, close binding humankind. Beyond all barriers of race, of color, caste, or creed, let us make human worth our common faith and deed. Then east and west will meet and share, and south shall build with north, one human commonwealth of good throughout the whole wide earth.
We've all learned in different ways that behind every person there is a backstory. And if it doesn't explain everything, it at least gives you some insight into that person's perspective and values. In that spirit, I decided to tell you a little bit about my story. As noted in my bio, I am now a minister in the United Church of Christ. What is not there is the fact that I was raised and later ordained as a Baptist in a small church in Rockville, Maryland, outside of D.C. If you are like many people I know, Baptist is a red flag. Yikes, what does she believe? Suffice it to say, to like-minded friends and colleagues, I often respond, I'm not that kind of Baptist. And yet, my Baptist heritage is central to who I am, what I believe, and what I'm going to talk about today. We all learned that the Puritans came to America for religious liberty. Forgotten, perhaps, is that once here, many of them did not offer religious freedom to others. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, for example, Congregationalism was the established church. Baptists held different beliefs. They denounced infant baptism and advocated for soul liberty, a term coined by Roger Williams to describe individuals' right to work out their own religious beliefs. Each of us, he said, has the liberty to determine what our conscience or soul dictates is right. We are responsible to no one but God as we understand God. Williams was banished from Massachusetts. In 1638, he and 12 others formed what is now recognized as the First Baptist Church in America, in Providence, Rhode Island. I've been there. The historian George Bancroft declared freedom of conscience, unlimited freedom of mind, was from the first a trophy of the Baptists. In the 17th century, freedom of conscience had become such a defining feature of Baptists that John Locke wrote, "The Baptists were the first and only propounders of absolute liberty, just and true liberty, equal and impartial liberty." Ultimately, the measures taken against Baptists would include whipping, imprisonment, fines, and banishment. I lament that the majority of modern-day Baptists have lost this historical distinctive. I do not know the full history of Unitarian Universalism, but I know that you are guided by 7 principles, including number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Your forebears also suffered for freedom. In the words of Reverend Victoria Safford, minister of White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church in Minnesota, we come from a long line of heretics who have professed many beliefs, blasphemous and orthodox, about all kinds of things, both sacred and profane. The freedom to speak, whatever the speech, the freedom to believe, whatever the belief, is the heart of the matter for us. In centuries past, Unitarians and Universalists were burned at the stake. They were tortured in dungeons. Their books were burned, their churches destroyed, their livelihoods ruined for holding to their truths, for refusing to recant, refusing to comply with governments or bishops or mobs. In a few minutes, I will talk about freedom more generally, about different kinds of freedom and the cost of freedom. But the foundation, the center of it all for me is this soul liberty, the freedom to believe whatever the belief, the freedom to search responsibly for the truth by which we live our lives. And now, would you please remain seated as Sean and Abby lead us in singing our centering hymn, number 155 in the gray hymnal, Circle Round for Freedom.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. One more time. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Now we share a part of our lives, a time to reflect on a deeply personal and meaningful joy or sorrow. We listen with reverence and care to build a stronger connection with each other. By sharing, our joys are amplified and our sorrows are lessened. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. I will bring the mic to you. Please say your name and give a brief verbal expression of a specific non-political joy or sorrow. I know what Tony says, guys. No joys, no sorrows? Okay, on we move. Oh, my wife, of course.
Sammy's wife. I'm Dina Sewell, and I'm incredibly proud of this man who, when I met him, was an atheist. We've come a long way, and so has he, and I'm really proud of you for doing this today.
I still am secular. Sorry, Dina.
I'm Janet Hoffman, and I want to give a joy. I am so thankful for the 80 people that showed up last Sunday for the Racial Wealth Gap event. Many thanks to you. A special thanks for those who, as Tony called it, was a border crossing, and really required a lot of courage. I would like to thank the Tarot Committee, Diane, Anna, anyone that helped us set this up and present it. And I also want to give a special thanks to the kitchen crew for while they had to put up with a whole lot of extra human beings last Sunday.
Good.
But also every Sunday, all the time and energy that they give to this congregation in setting up, serving, and cleaning up that I think often doesn't get appreciated. So many thanks to the kitchen crew.
The kitchen crew also does a great job on Tuesday for those who work in the garden. And if you want to have some real good stuff, all you have to do is work in the garden with us. Skip. Oh, I'll get you, Mary.
Good morning, Skip Lundborg. I know I share a great sorrow with all of you for the tremendous loss of life that has occurred in Turkey and Syria with the earthquake last week.
Tell us who you are, Mary.
I'm Mary Fletcher. And I want to second what you said. It's been awesome. But the reason I'm standing here today is a joy, and that is I had lunch with my two sisters yesterday, and I am so grateful for their presence in my life. They are an emotional, and they're responsible, I think, for my physical and emotional well-being at this stage. And the three of us feel definitely deeply bonded.
I'm Bill Pettinger, and a number of years ago, my mother and father brought into this world a lovely young lady, my young sister Dory, who came to visit for the first time in 10 years. That's my joy. Thank you for...
Grateful for all that has been shared, we hold in our hearts the joys and sorrows that were left unspoken.
Thank you, Michael. Sharing joys and sorrows is one of the gifts of being in community. The freedom to rejoice together, to struggle together, to grieve together, and to work together toward shared goals. I think it is a privilege when those of you who are willing share your joys and your concerns. And it requires trust that those of you who are here who are listening will hear those stories and treat them with care. Where there is that kind of trust, there is sacred freedom to be who you are and to share where you are in your life. And so let us give thanks for that freedom as we pause in silence to reflect on the joys and sorrows that have been shared and those that have gone unspoken, and how you care for one another in this community.
Who is freedom for? From David Schwartz. Our reading this morning comes to us from Reverend David Schwartz, the minister at the First Unitarian Church of Chicago. Although he refers to a Thanksgiving celebration, his message is universal. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Paraphrased from Martin Luther King Jr. I want to say it again. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. We gather at Thanksgiving, in some sense, to retell the creation myth of our country. In this myth is our very best and our very worst, a boldness, a care for the common good, a wish to say we before I. Yet even before the first Thanksgiving feast, it's a story of theft and violence and a ruthless, narrow definition of who we really means. The colonists had come seeking freedom, and in that we identify with them. But it was freedom only for themselves. In every generation forward from that day to this, the people living in this land that became America always struggled with the question, who is freedom for? Black persons were taken from their native Africa to become slaves. Immigration laws were written specifically and explicitly to prohibit non-Western Europeans. Women could not vote until a century ago. In many states right now, gays and lesbians can be legally fired or evicted merely for not being straight. Refugees knock, and in response, voices call to bar the door. The Universalist minister Clarence Skinner wrote a century ago, "The fight for freedom is never won. Each generation must win for itself the right to emancipate itself from its own tyrannies, which are unprecedented ever. Therefore, those who have been reared in freedom bear a tremendous responsibility to the world to win an ever larger and more important liberty. So may it be for us. We are the inheritors of our liberty, won with sweat and labor and blood of generations before us. May we be a people committed to winning an ever larger liberty for the generations that follow." Who is freedom for? May we answer today and always, every one of us.
Freedom, freedom, freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. You gotta pay the price, you gotta sacrifice for your liberty. Freedom is a word often heard today, but if you wanna keep it, there's a price to pay. Each generation's gotta win it anew, 'cause it's not something handed down to you. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. You gotta pay a price, you gotta sacrifice for your liberty. To some people, freedom is a waving flag. To do your own thing is another one's bag. But for everyone, freedom's the eternal quest. You're free to give humanity your very best. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. You gotta pay a price, you gotta sacrifice for your liberty. For your liberty.
Thank you, Sean, and Abby. Freedom. Freedom is a long-standing principle in this country. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are listed as inalienable rights in the Declaration of Independence. And did you know that February 1st was National Freedom Day in honor of the day in 1865 when President Abraham Lincoln signed a joint House and Senate resolution that was later ratified as the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the amendment that formally abolished slavery. And today is Lincoln's birthday. In his 1941 State of the Union address, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt delineated 4 universal freedoms that all people deserved: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. At a time when Western Europe lay under Nazi domination, Roosevelt was envisioning a world in which the American ideals of individual liberties. You too feel this freedom. But I do not believe that everyone else in our country or even our community shares that freedom. Whether it's because of specific prejudices like anti-Semitism or Islamophobia, or a generalized rejection of any religion but one's own, there are people of faith in our society whose beliefs make them at best suspect and at worst condemned in some people's eyes. I abhor Christian nationalism that seeks to impose one brand of Christian values on all of us, to intertwine their theology with law, politics, and government. What is our responsibility to confront the biases and dismantle the obstacles so that all can experience true and inclusive religious freedom? What about other kinds of freedom? In recent years, we have learned more about how little freedom was actually extended to enslaved Black men and women when their emancipation was proclaimed. How little freedom many Black and brown people have even now, more than 150 years later. Whether by economic circumstance, educational opportunity, availability of adequate health care, or a myriad of other factors, too many are indeed judged by the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. As we have seen recently, and most painfully, too often they lack even the most basic of freedoms, the freedom to be safe. Langston Hughes wrote about freedom. Freedom will not come today, this year, nor ever through compromise and fear. I have as much right as the other fellow has to stand on my 2 feet and own the land. I tire so of hearing people say, "Let things take their course, tomorrow is another day." I do not need my freedom when I'm dead. I cannot live on tomorrow's bread. Freedom is a strong seed planted in a great need. I live here too. I want my freedom just as you. What is our responsibility to confront the biases and dismantle the obstacles and create communities in which all people of color can truly experience the freedom which is their birthright? There are so many kinds of freedom. I recently learned that the album by Marlo Thomas and Friends, Free to Be You and Me, was released in December 1972. A few of you may also remember it. Just over 50 years ago, I owned the record and the book, and I knew the words to all the songs. Just thinking about it gets them replaying in my head. The theme was freedom to be ourselves. Every boy in this land grows to be his own man. In this land, every girl grows to be her own woman. Take my hand, come with me, where the children are free, and you and me are free to be you and me. We have a more nuanced understanding of gender identity now, but I think our longing could be described similarly, that all people grow to be their own person, that they are supported and welcomed into this land, which is our community, as themselves, however they understand their identity. If there are ways in which you do not feel completely free to be yourself, for whatever reasons, what can you do to live a more authentic life? If you personally feel great freedom because of your own life experiences or simply the wisdom of age, what can you do to help others to live more fully into their own personhood? What about our LGBTQ siblings, whose world seems to keep changing when allies in school are silenced by new educational regulations, when acceptance wanes and rejection increases? How do we protect them from harm and create communities in which they are truly free? We live in a time and place where freedom is being taken away. Whether college professors' academic freedom to teach what and how they want to teach, public school teachers' freedom to help children learn how to accept themselves and others and work together, sometimes called social emotional learning, or students' freedom to read books that enlarge their world and deepen their understanding. In fact, I could go on endlessly talking about all the different kinds of freedom, about all the ways in which freedom is limited in the world in which we live, about the hard work to create freedom where there is none, to increase freedom where it is not enough, or to sustain freedom where we see its bounty. I could, but I won't. I just want to say that to fight for freedom and defend it is hard work. As you heard Sean sing so well, freedom is not free. That phrase was first associated with the cost of lives lost in war fought to defend freedom. Painful losses indeed. And yet the cost of freedom is so much more and different than just what happens in war. Fighting for freedom is all hands on deck. Fighting for freedom takes big steps and little steps, but they are steps every one of us is called upon to take. It's speaking up instead of remaining silent. It's informed voting and advocacy for legislation that enhances freedom and against laws that reduce freedom. It's refusing to accept the status quo and committing to work for change. It's looking beyond myself and the great freedom that I do have to see with open eyes, a compassionate heart, and a thinking mind those whose freedoms are limited in so many ways. To do the work of fighting for freedom requires hope and companions. We have to believe, and we have to work together. For me, freedom is not only a political and social construct, it is also a spiritual concept, an experience of connection to a higher power that releases us from the limits of ordinary living and the judgments made by this world. This higher power says to us, there is more to life than what we can take in with our five senses. There is in the world powerful and creative energy moving us toward what is good and just. We may call that energy God, or spirit, or creative advance, or love, or the one who cannot be named, or the one with many names. Whatever you call this power, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We are invited to journey along that arc, to join our energy with that which is greater than us, to work toward freedom of every kind. As a Christian, I find hope in my faith, in words like these from Paul's letters to the early Christian churches. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. For freedom, Christ has set us free. For you were called to freedom, brothers and sisters, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, but through love become enslaved to one another. For the whole law is summed up in a single commandment: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I find hope in my faith and companions within my church and within the greater Naples community and beyond. Some of you are my companions, and I am grateful for what we are able to do together, and I hope you know who you are. As each of you commits yourself to growing spiritually within this congregation and beyond, I invite you to consider where you find your hope and your companions. What and who keeps you going? I don't know, but I suspect that some of the hope and some of the companions you find come from right here, within this community, the relationships among you and the mission you share. And so, on this day, my hope for you is that each of you will find hope and companions to do the work of fighting for freedom. The world needs you.
As we take time today to reflect on today's words and music, let's also take time to show our gratitude for this community and all that it does. The morning's offering will be gratefully received. For those of you in our video audience, please consider sending a contribution today. The information you need to donate is on the screen.
wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. Say I'm loud, say I'm clear, for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share all the love within my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree that every man should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things that I can do, though I'm way overdue. I'd be starting anew. Well, I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. Oh, I'd soar into the sun and look down in the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know, yeah. I'd sing 'cause I know, yep. And I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels. Oh, I know how it feels to be free. Yeah, I know how it feels to be free.
Thank you, Sean and Abby. Today after the service, John Saras will be speaking at our Sunday forum on the topic of artificial intelligence here in the sanctuary. John is a popular forum speaker who offers a thoughtful presentation. A light snack will be outside for those who are going to attend the Sunday forum. That'll be separate from the snacks that we normally have outside. I just read what I'm told to read, guys. Now, on Wednesday this week, Progressive Voices Speak Out lecture series features the Reverend Paul Brandeis Rauschenbusch, who is president and CEO of Interfaith Alliance. Dr. Rauschenbusch is a longtime leader in the interfaith movement, working to project and protect an inclusive vision of religious freedom for people of all faiths and none. He is grandson of the first Jewish Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis, a man who was quite famous, and the great-grandson of Baptist theologian Walter Rauschenbusch, a key feature in the social gospel movement. So he has quite an extensive family credentials. Next Sunday, after the service, there will be an orientation for anyone who is new or relatively new to the congregation. Reverend Tony Fisher and members of the membership team will be there to answer your questions and to offer an opportunity to learn a little more about this congregation and about Unitarian Universalism. Please mark your calendars for Saturday, March 4th, and the UUCGN silent auction. There will be wine and hors d'oeuvres, some great fellowship, and some wonderful items to bid on. It promises to be a great time. But please, RSVP so we know how much food and wine to order. We want the Goldilocks amount. Not too much, not too little, just right. So Please take a look at the newsletter or the checkout, or check out the Sunday News email blast to find out all the upcoming events of this coming month. And now, let's join our voices for our closing hymn in the gray hymnal, Hail the Glorious Golden City.
Hail the glorious golden city, pictured by the seers of old. Everlasting light shines o'er it, wondrous things of it are told. Wise and righteous men and women dwell within its gleaming wall. Wrong is banished from its borders, justice reigns supreme o'er all. We are builders of that city, all our joys and all our groans help to rear its shining ramparts. All our lives are building stones. Whether humble or exalted, all are called to task divine. All must aid alike to carry forward one sublime design. And the work that we have builded, oft with bleeding hands and tears, oft in error, oft in anguish, will not perish with our years. It will live and shine transfigured in the final reign of right. It will pass into the splendors of the city of the light.
Thank you to Sean and Abby for this beautiful music that has graced our worship and contributed to our worship this morning. And to Michael for his assistance and wonderful spirit. As we end this service, I invite you to go in peace, with gratitude for the freedoms that you experience, with openness to growing and becoming your ever more free, authentic self, and with a commitment to increasing the freedoms others experience. Who is freedom for? May we answer today and always, every one of us. Thank you.